failure, adversity, setbacks, challenges, and obstacles. How we can react to it can either lead to a breakdown or a breakthrough. The primary building blocks of achievement, success, and perseverance. Today on ASAP Elite, along with myself, Coach Penn, and co-host Professor Haas, we are honored to bring to you 9-year NFL receiver, best-selling author, entrepreneur, motivational speaker from Portland, Oregon, Mr. JJ BIrden.
Yeah, you forgot one thing. Oh yeah, you should have said Super Tecmo Bowl baller.
Oh man, yeah. After I put together the acronym, and saw how it's the building blocks to our acronym. I said, man, this is meant to be.
Nice. What's your acronym?
Achievement, success, and perseverance of the elite.
Love it. Love it.
Yes, sir. I read yours like, oh boy. So I guess these are the steps you got to go to before you get to that. Yeah.
Well, it's good to be here, Coach Penn and Coach Haas, man. I'm glad to have a chance to share, man. So looking forward to inspiring your listeners.
Yes, sir. Such a pleasure to be with a legend, man. All right, let's get it started. Can you do us the favor of introducing yourself to our audience, explaining how you were introduced to football in your career up until you decided to hang up the cleats?
All right, absolutely. So name is JJ BIrden, as was already mentioned. I live in Scottsdale, Arizona. I've been married to my college sweetheart, Raina, almost 31 years next month. So, it's nice to be married to someone who knew me way back. And I can remember when I was attending University of Oregon, I told her I played football and she's like, you too small. You don't play football. I said, yeah, come see me Saturday. So that's how she found out I actually played football. But a good woman, and in many ways, we have.
Mr. BIrden, I never cut anyone off, but I needed to pounce on this while I had the opportunity.
Okay.
I need to ask you advice. And what did you do in order to make your marriage last 31 years so far?
Ooh,
what does it take for us to, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm 17, so I'm almost halfway.
I think I'm like 10.
But one is just accept the fact there's a learning curve. There's no manual that tells husbands exactly what to expect, and there is a learning curve, and you have to understand that. And we have our ups and downs, but I think there's a couple things I think that really helped us. One is understanding that it's not about me. It's about her. Trying to put her needs ahead of my own. And that took some time because when I was in the NFL, everything revolved around me and my career. Yes, once the career was over, I had to flip the switch. And I think that's really helped. I have my good days, I have my bad days, but I'm always trying to put her needs ahead of me. And then, we follow Bible principles. We believe in the principles in the Bible that guide you in terms of married life and what to do and what to not to do. And we're on the same page there. So like when we had our bad days or our bad moments, such principles guide us to still fight for it, to work through it. And I think those are the two aspects that have really helped us, where I can say proudly when the average divorce rate for professional athletes is 78% is the divorce rate when their career is over. I'm proud to say, no, we're still together.
Yeah, that's why I never hear that. That's why I had to ask you that question. It just stuck out. And like I say, I ask questions that are able to help all of us. And, me being married myself and Professor Haas being married, we need to learn from the guys that came before us, what's the best way to go about things and how to do things. You get what I'm saying? So thank you.
Yeah. And I think it's a good point because I have two boys that are now married. They've been married 3 years, and I've tried to just share those points with them and help them understand that, it's work. It's going to take work. And some think it's easy to throw in a towel, but no, you fight for it. You learn from it and you keep growing. But that for us men, we have to accept that point. It's not about us. It's about them. You do what you can to take care of your wife and make her happy. Everything else falls into place.
Let me ask you one more question on that. When did you know that, or when did you make the transition into surpassing yourself and your needs first and segue in and evolving to her needs first? How long did that usually generally take?
That's a good question. It took me 14 years.
Okay.
It really did. It took me time because we got married my third year in the NFL. And when you're a professional athlete, you got to be locked in on your sport. I mean, because to play at the highest level against the best in the world and be on your game, everything revolves around you. And so, but when the career was over, I kind of went to this battle where I thought it was still about me. And I was like, no, dude, your career's over. You got to make it about your family. And it honestly took me about 14 years to figure that out. And I think it was like year 13, we had a really bad year. Okay. And it was one of those years where you could see where people just like, I'm a quit, I'm done, you know. But it was one of those years where I had to look in the mirror and say, JJ, hey, don't be pointing the finger at her, point the finger at yourself. Where do you need to change? What do you need to do better? Where do you need to improve? And I think that was when I had that wake-up call, when really things started to flow better. When, again, like I said, it wasn't about me, it was about her.
Well, my problem is, of course, I'm just a man, and I have to learn how to be married, and everything is through biblical terms, and we follow that. But sometimes I realize that I need to do those things after the situations, and I'm just pressing and and ready and praying to get to the point where I can supersede that. You get what I'm saying? So
yeah, no, I think that getting, because it was probably about year 14 for me. A lot of times with marriage, it's done on a, we both do it that way, right? On a deserve. Well, well, I'm not gonna do it because you don't deserve it. You ain't been acting right.
Yeah.
And that's honestly the norm for most marriages. And I remember going to a marriage retreat that the marriage ministry at my church held, and I realized that if you're holding your marriage by biblical principles, okay, it doesn't say in there. It says what the wife is supposed to do and what the husband is supposed to do, but it doesn't say. It never says anything like if the husband does this or if the wife does that. So then that's when it really hit me like, whoa, these are requirements for me regardless.
Okay.
And it was just like, man. So now what I'm working on is, we're not working off of, oh, well, you don't deserve type thing, or you've been tripping, so I'm not, don't ask me to do that. Mm-hmm. But it's more so now for me that I have to say, like, she'll ask me, like, I get in bed and I'm ready to go to sleep, and then she'll ask me to go get something from the kitchen for her. Mm-hmm. And I'll get up and do it. But I'm sitting here and I'm just like, boy, you better be lucky that I love the Lord and he just, I'm supposed to do it. So that's what I'm saying to myself while I'm on the way to go do it. But to get to the point where I just do it just out of love. But yeah, the thing is I think what Mr. Burden said is about, looking at her needs over our needs is definitely what needs to happen.
See, my experience, where I come from in Detroit, the majority demographic of people in the inner city are raised by single parent households. So they never see how to be married. Right. You get what I'm saying? So we have to learn on the fly. So questions like this from a deacon and Mr. JJ BIrden, that's priceless information. And our audience, I hope you're listening, man. Like I say, take the wisdom and experience and apply it the best way you can. And thank you.
And let me just add too, because I think you make a good point, Coach, because I was raised by a single parent. I didn't have the dad. I didn't have the example, and I think that's why I struggled early on, because I didn't have the father figure to give me the tips and all that. And so I went to this learning curve. So I made sure my boys, I sat them down and said, hey, I didn't have a dad to tell me what I'm about to tell you. Right. So what I just shared with you guys, I was sharing that with these guys so that they wouldn't make the same mistakes that I made. Yes. And be able to figure it out before 14 years, figure out what they want.
Because some folks don't make it that far.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I was raised by a single father, a successful blues musician. Mm-hmm. So I saw a little different things, Yeah. So luckily my wife, I don't know how she did it, but she took the time and she was patient with me, and you know, I'm getting there. Baby, I love you. Sorry, just
Good
keep
job,
going.
guys. Hey, I commend you both. Great job, guys. We need those examples.
I'll say the last thing I'll add to that is that with even when you're not talking about marriage, but when you're talking about relationships, period, right? Because any relationship is gonna have issues, but you have to understand that the person is more important than the problem or the issue. So if you can get that, because sometimes we want to be right?
Yeah.
Well, at what cost are you willing to be right?
Exactly.
So learned a lot of that too.
Excellent. I love it. I'll give them the quick version, you know. But so basically, yeah, I've obviously been an athlete my whole life. I was a football player, track athlete at high school in Portland, Oregon, #1 wide receiver in the state, really good track and field athlete. No Division I school offered me a scholarship, and I took it personal. I was offended. I don't care if I'm 5'9", 133 pounds. I could play D1. Yeah, and so I got a track scholarship because I knew I would get a track scholarship. I was the top long jumper in the nation. And every school that recruited me, I asked them, what do you think about me playing football one year? And all the D1 schools said no, except for Oregon. Oregon was the only school that said, if you come and run for the Ducks, if you can convince the coach, you have our blessing to walk on. And so my second year at Oregon, I begged the head coach, Rich Brooks, let me walk on. And he finally said yes, and didn't have a great start. I walked in day one. I was number 14 on the depth chart of all the wide receivers. And here was the first lesson I would share with everyone is that, because, you know, you go into a situation like that, 14 receivers, I'm 13, 14. A lot of people might think, you know what, this is a waste of my time. They're not even going to give me a shot. Why do I even want to be here? I need to quit. What I saw was opportunity. How fast can I move up the depth chart? I mean, that was my mentality because I knew what I could do. I knew what I was capable of. They didn't, but I had the opportunity to prove that I could. So needless to say, yeah, I mean, and you know, and I had that underdog mentality where maybe they see you as the underdog, and I know that, but I didn't see myself. I didn't believe I was the underdog, and needless to say, made the team and then did both sports for the remainder of my college career, and then getting ready for my senior year, I qualified for the 1988 Olympic trials in the long jump. And that's what I was focusing on. I didn't have a great college career in football, but I got drafted by the Browns in the 1988 NFL draft, 216th pick, 8th round, long shot. They don't even have 8 rounds anymore. But so I went to the rookie camp the next week, just to see what the NFL was like. But I was focusing on nationals, the Olympic trials for long jump. Needless to say, I tore up my ACL ligament at the Browns mini camp. And guys, that's when everything switched. And when I talk about breakthrough, that was one of those moments where I was at that crossroad where this can take me down and out, or it can take me to bigger and better things. And that's when I flipped the switch and focused on the NFL and went on to play 9 years. So, you know, in the end, I guess it worked out okay.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, you definitely impacted, you know, the communities more than you know. Like I say, it was kids my age in the street playing ball saying I'm JJ BIrden. I don't know if you understand how impactful that is.
No, I see. For me, it was seeing that JJ BIrden run across the screen after you score a touchdown and super technical ball, and they do that same one week. Like,
I know, guys. Those are so cool because you know when you're trying to make it to the league and play in the NFL, you don't think about video games or football cards, but that was like the perk. And I remember when Tecmo came out and just seeing myself on the screen, I had like curly hair and I was super fast. And I mean, that was an added benefit. It was certainly a thrill, but you know, and this is 2021. I have people messaging me on Twitter and Facebook that there's still Tecmo leagues, and they're still using me in these games. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But yeah, and one of the things I definitely want to pull out in what you said is, you know, we often hear, you know, you have to begin with the end in mind. Well, if anybody who's watching wants to know what that looks like, just as my friend, one of my best friends from Trinidad would say, forward it back and listen to what JJ BIrden just said about his road. That's what beginning with the end in mind. When you start 14th out of 14 receivers, we talking about one position.
Yeah, we're talking.
On the depth chart at that time. Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Say it again.
No more than 3 on the field at that time. The spread wasn't really implemented yet.
Right, wow. Right. So the thing is when you begin with the end in mind, then you stay focused on your goal. And that's what it looks like. You hear it all the time, but that's what it looks like.
Hey, not to forget, like I said, he tried out for the Olympics in 1988. Like I said, he was born with a jetpack. You know, I would have had that confidence too, man. If I was running a 4.42, well, goodness.
Well, it's one of those things where, you realize you have a gift, and there's that saying about, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work. I always had the mentality of, well, wait, what happens when talent puts in the work? That's how I consider myself. Yeah, I got this gift and this ability, but I'm gonna back it up with some work and see how far this can take me. And that's, it obviously took me to the top.
Yeah, that's sweet, man. Now, recently I watched a clip of you taking a 35-yard post to pay dirt, which turned out to be your very first 6 in the NFL. After 9 years, which is rare in professional football, you decided to hang up the cleats. What sign and when did you know it was time to leave?
Well, I was, first to make it to the NFL was unexpected. It was a privilege. And as I started figuring out, okay, this is a business, okay? And when you understand, it's like, okay, what can I get out of this that I can help me transition? And when I learned that playing 4 years, you're vested, you qualify for retirement, that was the goal. Let me see if I can get 4 years. And then guys, after that, it was like, well, let me see if I can go 5. Let me see if I can go 6. But it was right around year 6, because recognizing the statistics that the average NFL player plays less than 2 years, I had already beat that. I thought, let's start transition. Let's start planning for life after football. And I started making business contacts, networking, because I wanted to have options when the career was over. And then when I got to year 8, I just finished my first year with the Falcons. I didn't have a great year. I had a couple pulled hamstrings, and I went into my last year with them. And just the way that season went, I thought, okay, you're now the experienced veteran. They're going to bring you back, but you're going to have to make X amount of dollars because you're a veteran. When they're going to bring these younger guys in, they're going to make a lot less. And I said, do you really want to go through that? Do you really want to battle with that? And I thought, you're relatively healthy. Let's walk away now and start life after the game. And so I walked away on my terms, and that's how I wanted to do it, because as you probably know, a lot of guys don't know how to give it up.
That's right.
A lot of guys are afraid to give it up. A lot of guys don't know what they're going to do when the game's over, but I'm not a lot of guys. I felt privileged to be there. And I don't know if you guys know this, there has been no NFL player in the last 30 plus years that has played longer than me that weighed under 160. I was 157.
Really?
So to me, I'd already achieved something pretty special. So it was about, let's move on and let's begin the next phase.
Now, one of the things, because I don't know if you watched the NFL draft, but like in the first 3 rounds, there were like 5 of you.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting and like the kid from Louisville who was electric.
Yeah. 2-2.
But he was taller than you.
Yeah, 2-2.
Yeah, and the kid from Purdue. Yeah, I mean, like the thing is what you're starting to see, right? Is now, football is a sport where you can. I've seen people get scholarships off of the way they look.
Yeah, the eye test.
That's what they call it, prototypical. But then they start seeing what happens is you have these players who work hard and who really go after it, and they have a uber amount of talent, and now they're like, okay, well, maybe prototypical ain't what prototypical is. Let's look at that. But it took people like yourself and to be like, well, shoot, you had JJ BIrden, and then some of the best receivers to play the game, especially when you're talking about statistics wise, were shorter guys, young guys.
Hey, Haas, let me piggyback off of that and pick out a nugget, which he said, and ask him, his perspective. So you said upon reaching the end of your career, you begin to make business contacts and expanding your business network. Professor Haas has been integral in the movement of getting young brothers to look at the business aspect of it first at the beginning of the career, or go to college in order to be an executive or front office. What I'm saying? So which could be a major ingredient, should I say, in changing the minority hiring process in the NFL. What do you think about those guys, and what advice would you give to those guys who aren't thinking about life after football at the beginning and focusing while they're playing at the beginning, to be able to enter some of these prestigious places such as John Elway as soon as they get done playing?
Yeah. I think what these athletes need to understand is life after the game begins in college. It begins in college, because college, you start establishing yourself as an athlete, as a student athlete. You start networking there. You also start gaining skills just to be a college student, let alone an athlete where you have no life. You learn some important skills like, organization and structure, and just, having the ability to stay on point while you're managing all these different responsibilities. But as soon as you step in the NFL, that's when you start planning for life after football. Day one. That's when you start planning for it, because as I mentioned earlier, the average NFL career now is less than 2 years. Yep. Coach Haas, you mentioned these little guys that got drafted. How many of them are going to play longer than 2 years? Because there's elements that, you don't know unless you've been there. These are all great athletes, but tell you, when you get in there and you're dealing with pressure, and you're dealing with competition, and you're dealing with the fact that you got to be performing at a high level under a microscope all the time, I would see guys break down. They couldn't process information. They couldn't play under pressure. So they have to prepare, though, in case they're not able to meet what's required.
Right.
So I believe, especially now, guys, with the world of social media, oh my goodness, the way they can network, the way they can build their brands now and start, position themselves for opportunities, whether it's during their career afterwards. The athletes of today have a huge advantage than what I had. I was calling up doctors and I was calling up friends and all that. Now they can just be active on social media and build a network that way and create some powerful networks that can benefit them later.
Absolutely.
That's true.
And again, that goes back to beginning with the end in mind.
Yeah.
What did you say? Forward. What did you call it? Your friend,
Forward it back.
Forward it back. Rewind it.
Yeah. And there's things, guys, that athletes can do while they're playing to prepare them. And I'll give you a couple of examples. So when I was with the Browns, I had 1 quarter left to get my degree at Oregon. I was a sports marketing major. So when I was with the Browns during the off season, I was like, can I work in your public relations department during the off season? Can I work in your sales department? Can I work in your marketing department? So they allowed me to work in those departments to finish my internship, which allowed me to graduate when I was at Oregon. The next year, I started doing speaking events because in the off season, schools and organizations, they want to hear from pro athletes. I don't like speaking in front of people, but I thought, here's a skill I can develop that I probably could use later. Now I'm a motivational speaker, but it all started back in the off season. So the NFL gave me other opportunities to build skills that I would be able to use later.
Hey, Mr. Burden, speaking of that, many retired professional athletes attempt to segue their career into public speaking roles, but are nowhere as impactful as you have been. What was your inspiration to become a keynote speaker?
Well, I think when I realized a couple things, guys, when I realized what I did was unique. I mean, think about it. The average high school football player has a 0.008% chance to get to the league. Yeah. College is 1.6. And I already told you how long guys play. So think about this. Every year, there's about 1,696 men on an active NFL roster. 1,696. Let's say they keep 5 wide receivers on every team. Let's say 2 start. what is that? 64 job openings every year to be a starter. So when I started putting these all together, and then I realized that I played at 5'10", 157 pounds, I thought, I have something not only unique, I achieved something that's very rare. And I thought, how many other people out there feel like they're the underdog? They feel like the odds are against them. They feel like that it's impossible to go make the possible happen. I thought, those are people I want to impact. And that's when I started putting together my speaking campaign, because I felt that I'm the first, I'm the last, I'm the only. Because there's a lot of professional athletes out there that speak. There's a lot of former NFL players that speak. But there's no NFL player who played 5'10", 157 pounds and played 9 years that speaks. That's me, that's my message. And I can tailor that towards the right audience at the right time to deliver the right message.
Gotcha. I mean, I was listening to some, and I just wanted to go suit up again, but I remember how bad it hurt. Yeah. But for that couple 5 minutes though, well, I was ready. Yes, sir. Yeah, but definitely, man. Like I said, I've encountered so many athletes that have entered the public speaking realm, man. And like I say, but you were just a little different. You know, like I say, it was like a natural thing, like you were born to do that also. You know, yeah. So I just wanted to tip my hat and ask you, what was it that made you really, and what sign did you have that, hey, look, I'm gonna try this out, and I'm gonna be, you know, 5'7", 160, you said?
5'10", 157.
And I'm going to attack this with that same beast, and I'm going to be great at this too, you know?
Yeah, but I will tell you, and anybody listening, you know, it was a process. Mm-hmm. I had my ups and downs. I mean, when I launched it, I hired a mentor. A brother named Dr. Will Moreland. Okay. Speaker, author, and I thought, if I'm going to do this, I need to have a coach. I need to have a mentor who's already been there, done that. And so he coached me through the process, helped me write my first book, helped me launch my speaking campaign. And then, guys, I picked up the phone, and I remember getting 22 no's as I called schools. I called businesses. I'll come speak for free. It was no. They didn't care I was in the league. They didn't care I played with Joe Montana. But what I learned as an athlete is no is part of the process. You're going to deal with rejection. You're going to deal with setbacks, and those should make you hungrier. And each no made me hungrier to tighten up my message and tighten up my content. And finally, Merrill Lynch in Kansas City said yes. And that launched my speaking career after that.
Yeah, that adversity was upon you, you know, during your entire career, man. And you handled that gracefully. You used that as fuel. You know, and that's a great example in itself, and you know, something to share with our audience of how you are supposed to handle, you know, when you're back against the wall, when you don't have a chance, when the odds are against you.
Yeah, and that's an important element of my message, because as you mentioned earlier, I came up with this acronym called Fasco: failures, adversity, setbacks, challenges, and obstacles, because we all deal with them no matter what area of life. And so I dealt with it. My road to the NFL, like I said, tore up my ACL in Cleveland. The next year they cut me. And then then the Chiefs called me. Detroit Lions called me, and so did the Packers. I flew out to each team consecutively, flunked all their physicals, and they said, nope, you're not ready. So was rejected by 4 teams over a 5-day period. What did I do? Went back home and continued to work. Dallas Cowboys called. I get on the team. Jimmy Johnson says, we're going to play at some point this year. I'm there the whole year on developmental squad. I never play in a game. Then Jimmy tells me when the season's over, I don't think you're cut out from the NFL. You should do something else. Yeah. I go home and continue to work because I know I can play. I've seen the competition. I know what this is about. I need to get healthy. Then the Chiefs call, have a great camp, great offseason. Then they cut me at the end of camp. And I'm sitting at home, guys, with my pregnant wife, $250 in my bank account, wondering what I'm going to do. Chiefs call 2 weeks later. They activate me. I'm on the team. I score a touchdown, and the rest is history. But the lesson is, like you said, it's like, how do you deal with adversity? How you deal with those obstacles? You take a step back and you say, why did this happen to me? What can I learn from it? And how can I turn this into an opportunity? And every time I was rejected, that's the same process I went through. And I got better, I got stronger, I got faster. And when I got that real opportunity with the Chiefs, I was ready for it.
When you went to Detroit, did you meet with a gentleman named Larry Lee?
You're testing my memory out now.
Okay.
I can't remember who I met with. I just remember meeting with the doctor, and the doctor looking at the swelling in my knee and saying, "Now we're putting you back on the plane."
Well, I just want to say something to my uncle real quick. Uncle Larry, man, come on, bro.
Detroit tried to get me a couple times. I remember when I was a free agent. I think that time they brought me out, and then there was another time I was a restricted free agent. They tried a couple times, but it just, for whatever, it just wasn't the right fit, at the time.
Yeah, my uncle was the director of football operations with the Lions then.
Oh, he probably was there, huh?
Oh, he was there. I was there too.
Yeah. In what you were talking about, what I constantly hear is begin with the end in mind.
Mm-hmm.
But then you did something that people don't do often, right? Is you took time to reflect.
Yeah.
The only way we're going to learn from our past mistakes is if we reflect on, okay, and take ownership of what could, because you didn't say what did they do to me? You said, what can I do? What am I doing wrong? What can I do better?
Yeah.
That's true reflecting on what other folks did to you. That's not really reflecting.
Right. It's such a rare mind state.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but then, what really stands out from all of that is you turned an obstacle into an opportunity.
Yeah.
And I just get the feeling that that's how you typically look at life. You look
that's
at
who he is.
Opportunities.
Yeah. That's been my mindset, guys. And I don't know if it's because I was always the little guy in grade school and junior high. I was always trying to prove myself, that I deserve, that I belong. I don't know what it is, but I've always had that mindset. And, I think how you think, what you think really matters. And if you're in any given situation, no matter what happens, one thought, one idea, it's going to take you that way or it's going to take you that way. So I've always tried to okay, let's keep it a positive mindset. Okay, the Chiefs cut me. I should have made the team. But you know what? I played in 4 preseason games. Yes. That means 31 other NFL teams saw me play in 4 games. I said, someone's going to call me. Yes. So I knew that I was going to get in the league. I knew that they were going to call me, and I just waited. It just happened to be Marty Schottenheimer who said, I'm not letting you leave KC. You need to stay right here. I'm getting you on this team, and he did.
Well, in addition to, that moxie and that, that dog that you're made of, we just can't pass up on giving Miss BIrden credit also for instilling that thing. Yes, sir. Now,
one of the things I gotta ask you, right? We have this who's the GOAT, or who, a lot of people consider Tom Brady the GOAT of quarterbacks. All right, I'm not a big Tom Brady fan, but here's the thing: I wasn't a big Joe Montana fan, but I give credit where credit is due. Right. And I've always said that it's hard to compete with Joe Montana's resume, man. And right. You got to play with he threw passes to you. Yeah. And then you got that dog that's and honestly, who I think will be the GOAT when it's all done if he continues down this road is that guy that's at Kansas City right now. But that that's for another show. Yeah. But talk to me about Joe Montana and his all-time greatness and how do you think he compares with the Tom Brady?
Well, I think for me, I was in denial for a while. I would not admit that Tom Brady was the greatest yet, because, I wouldn't, because Joe Montana had this perfect record and, he achieved what he achieved.
Absolutely.
But I think when Tom, before this last one, when he won the last one, the one before this recent one, that's when I started to okay. And then then he goes to Tampa. Yeah. At his age, wins another one. Then I was like, okay, sorry, Joe, you're number 2. Right. We got to give it to Tom. I mean, what he's achieving, and the other thing too, guys, think about this. Mm-hmm. He goes to a new team, a new philosophy, a new staff, a new everything, and he's 43 years old and beats a powerhouse team like the Chiefs. It was like, you couldn't help but he's the greatest. I mean, what he's achieving is very, very rare. And as much as we all sometimes might not be the biggest Tom Brady fan, I got to give him his props.
Hey, man, that's a Michigan Wolverine right there.
And here's the funny thing, man, is all the quarterbacks that I've considered to be the greatest, I didn't really like as flat. Like I'm a Cowboy fan, so
Right.
I didn't like Joe Montana.
Right.
So, but I've always been someone that, I may not like you as a player, I may not cheer for you, but I'm not going to deny your greatness.
Gotta respect
Joe
it.
Montana was absolutely
You have to.
great.
You have to. And I know playing 9 years and leaving the game at 32, for him to playing at 43, the most important position in the game, and to still play it's just, I mean, I don't know if I don't know if we'll see it. Even Patrick Mahomes, he has the potential. He's got a great start, but is he going to play that long and we'll just have to wait.
His talents are going to hinder him, kind of like Lamar Jackson's will.
We'll see. But you know what? The Chiefs did the smart thing. They cleaned up house on the O-line. They brought in a fresh new line, brought in some studs, and I think that was a serious move by the Chiefs. So that could easily put this team in a position to.
That boy was on skates, man. That boy was on skates that Super Bowl. But let's get back to it. I had a question about in 2007, you started Team X88 International.
Yeah.
Can you tell our audience what that is and how they could benefit from it?
Yeah, so basically Team X88 International is my business, the parent company of my two businesses.
Okay.
As I mentioned earlier, I'm a motivational speaker, best-selling author.
Sure.
There's that segment. And then the other side is I've been in health and wellness for about 14 years. I work with Isogenics, a direct selling network marketing company. I've been doing that for about 14 years. So the two are pretty much the businesses that are under Team X88.
Gotcha.
So what I do with people is I always try to find out, how can I help you? Is it through my speaking? Is it through my coaching? Is it through what is it? Or is it over here in my health and wellness business? So I try to find out what solutions are you looking for and determine which one is the right fit to help them achieve their goals. And I love what I do, guys, because when I retired from the league, like I mentioned, I transitioned. And I had a couple businesses. I had 2 medical companies I ran in Kansas City. I had a fitness equipment company in Atlanta because I thought that was the dream. Let me own my own brick and mortar businesses and just build this empire. Well, it didn't happen. I was fighting with some big companies and I was a little man in a very big pond, a little fish in a big pond. So after doing that, I realized that I wanted more control over what I did, who I worked with. I make the decisions. So I got out of those industries. Now the businesses I'm in, I'm the guy. I make the decisions. I decide who I'm going to work with. I put the systems together. And to me, that's what it's all about, having the freedom to do what you want to do, when you want to do it, and who you want to do it with.
That's living. That's living, man. When opportunity knocks, 8 surefire ways to take advantage. What was the inspiration behind that book?
The inspiration behind that was I felt that, you think about opportunities. We all have an opportunity to do something. We have goals, we have dreams, we have wants. And just through my journey, I saw so many people miss out on opportunities, or maybe they had the opportunity, but then they kind of lost it. And as I thought of myself, I thought, I'm the poster child when it comes to seizing your opportunities. So if I can write a manual, a blueprint to show people, here's what it takes to achieve those goals that are important to you, and just kind of show the recipe of success that I've utilized, and maybe I can help that one person, make a difference. And that was really the motivation behind it. And what's cool, guys, is I'm going back and forth on book number 2.
Okay.
Because I'm going to write a second book, because I had this idea. And now I'm getting some authors, or not some authors, some publishing companies that are trying to get me to write an autobiography. And I'm sitting there going back and forth. I said, do I want to write an autobiography, or do I want to write, so we'll see what happens. But I'm excited about the potential.
Yeah, do it all, man.
Doing both, yeah.
Yeah, that's what my wife has been telling me.
That autobiography, I mean, and take it or leave it, but here's how I look at, because just talking about, being undersized for the sport that you played, right? And all the obstacles but it's just like, that is a book that athletes big or small, can look at, right? Because they may find themselves in your situation, but just people in life,
People in general,
you know, a business person that you know, a small guy and a big fish in a little pond that feels like, you know, yeah, I don't know if I want to compete with all these people, but you have a good product. Like, I mean, there's so much that can happen just from reading your story about, you know, your perseverance, your beginning with the end in mind. All of those are business principles, life principles that people can use. So I mean, I think the autobiography would be good.
You sound just like the reporter from the Oregonian. He told me the same thing, just what you say, because you need to write that autobiography.
Yes. Hey, in addition to what he said, Mr. Burden, just my life and my professional career as an example, you wouldn't believe how many times that I've been in a position of being the only African-American in a position in an entire company at times. Even when I was in basic training in the military, in infantry school, I was the only brother in the company, you know, so I kind of got used to being that guy, but I also, you know, learned to deal with it and represent well. But like I said, if I would have had that information, it would have gave me a blueprint to how to go about it. Now, where do you find this book at?
Yeah, that book. It's right here.
No, I mean the book that the book that's
this one.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, this one here is on my website. I mean, it's on the other book websites as well, but my website, I keep it there because everyone that comes through my website, I personally sign. So jjbirden.com, it goes through there and then it comes across my desk. But that's a great way to get it. And I think what you said, Coach Haas, is that I wrote it for everybody. It's not just for athletes. It's not just for male, female, young, old. It's a basic general book that applied to everyone. And I think one of the greatest compliments I got was when I wrote it and my mom didn't know I was writing it. And then when I finished it, I said, Mom, I want you to read this. Well, she's in here too. And I shared some lessons and she was just like, she was blown away. She's like, wow, there's so many things in here that apply to me. And I go, mission accomplished. Because if my mom, who's 35, didn't know I was writing this book, could see the value in it, then I think I did what I needed. I enjoy this. I enjoy having this opportunity to meet you guys, and now we're building something that'll be long lasting. But when I wrote this first book, I didn't really market it. I did very little because it was my first book and I was a little hesitant. I didn't really know. But you know, you learn from your experiences. So this book number 2, I will market it and I will do things like that and to really get it out there. But no, I would definitely love to be back and, you know, talk about it when it comes out.
Well, we're about to get you out of here. I don't want to hold you on too long, but I have a couple more questions. So you have pretty much dedicated your post-life, part of your, during your NFL professional career to philanthropy. You know, so my next question would be, what do you have going on now? And what advice would you give the 23-year-old Mr. Burden, you know, from your perspective today as the philanthropist, as the giver? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a combination. I mean, one is I have a big family, you know, like I mentioned earlier, 3 biological children, 5 adopted nieces and nephews. So that's a huge part of what I'm doing is making sure these young ones get on that road and make some smart decisions. And they're all moving out and all that other stuff. So that's part of it. The other part is really continuing to perfect what I'm doing right now, because even as a speaker, I'm still working to craft my message to get it right, to where, you know, you master your niche so that your message is always tight and it's right and it's being received properly. So I'm constantly trying to improve as a speaker and even in my other businesses too, because I think if I get better, if I master the skills, then I'm going to have a better chance to impact more lives. So that is definitely a priority for me. And I think, you know, it's being a professional athlete. Every day's game day. You're always trying to get better. You're always trying to improve. You're always trying to raise the bar. So that's what I'm constantly trying to do.
Yeah, people are watching, man. People are watching. I have a 13-year-old son. I have a 13-year-old nephew and a 9-year-old nephew there in Houston with Professor Haas, you know, and they're watching. You know, and for us to set these great examples for them and, you know, be able to have this kind of dialogue with a Mr. JJ BIrden for them to refer to when they're 18 and 19 or even before, you know, it's priceless, man.
Yeah, and I would tell my advice to young ones, I would say this is, don't have an entitlement mentality. A lot of young ones have an entitlement mentality today. They think they're entitled to this, they're entitled to that, and they should be given that. And, that's not the attitude we had. Growing up, I sat on the bench for 3 years in high school before I finally got to play my senior year. I was at Oregon. I had to sit on the bench for 3 years before I became a starter. But it was what I did while I was sitting on the bench. I was using practice as an opportunity to get better and improve my skills so that when I got to play, I took advantage of it. And so I would say this, and I would leave the young ones with this quote here. There's a saying out there that goes like this: when opportunity knocks, you answer the door. Okay, we've heard it, okay? But I want everybody to flip that. Your mentality has to be like this. When opportunity knocks, you don't answer the door. You rip that door off the hinges and you make that opportunity stay. That means when you get a chance to do something, you own it. You do whatever it takes to master it and conquer it. You do that, so many unexpected opportunities will come your way.
GOAT skills. Can you be the greatest of all time? Football, basketball, track and field? We can help you become the greatest version of yourself. To become the best you must be trained by and with the best. Downloadable workouts, get trained by the best, and don't forget to wear the gear. GOATskills.com, where the best get started to finish on top. So, all right, so this is going to be our question of the day. And I want to dedicate this to your book, this question. What is your feeling on Kaepernick not getting a sincere opportunity? And do you believe him not receiving a sincere opportunity, opposed to if he was given one, would have a greater impact historically?
That's a good question. Well, one is, it's obvious that Kaepernick's been bad. He's been bad. It is obvious that he should have been given an opportunity. You're bringing out quarterbacks who've been working at stores and ain't played for I don't know how long. That is obvious. The only challenge I have is I really wish I knew what happened behind the scenes, because I know that Kaepernick signed some kind of deal. I don't know what that deal means, and if that's why he's not being given a shot. You know what I mean? Because I think there's some things behind the scenes we don't know about. Because I know he got some kind of settlement or something like that.
So him and I believe Eric Reed, they both got a settlement, but Eric is playing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And Kaepernick is not. And so for me, like I said, to me, you don't know football if you think there were 30 quarterbacks better than Colin Kaepernick.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, like
two or 3 years removed.
Yeah, stop talking football if you think there was 30 quarterbacks better than him. So
I agree. So if there is nothing contractually that we don't know about that's restricting him, he should be playing. He should be getting a shot. That little deal thing that they did where they scheduled the workout and then they had the hidden verbiage in the contract and stuff, I wouldn't have worked out either. I wouldn't have worked out in those circumstances. So the fact, again, that he's not playing, and he's not too old. I don't care if he's been out for 4 years or whatever. He's still young enough. He's still training. He can still play. And like you said, Coach Hoss, he's better than some of these quarterbacks that are on those rosters. So
he's not 43.
Yeah. See, unfortunately, it comes back to being a business. Mm-hmm. The owners are worried about the repercussions of bringing him on the roster, and that's not right. And it's going to be interesting to see if some owner, some coach steps up at some point and gives him a fair shot to make a team.
Now, my perspective, it's a different one, but just how I see things and, history being the best storyteller. So I'm kind of, satisfied that he did not get another opportunity for the sake of history books 50 years from now. If you remember when Muhammad Ali was going through his thing, everybody hated Ali.
Yeah.
Get what I'm saying? But it has so much of an impact in my generation. Well, a lot before it spread it, and by the time I was coming up and watching you play, his impact was worldwide. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think it's a double-edged sword with that. Yeah. So I see that too.
When you look at history, that's how it happens, right?
Yes.
The thing is when you think about Martin Luther King, he back in when he was alive and doing all the marches and stuff like that,
Mhm.
he wasn't revered like he is today.
Mhm.
He's an uber icon. He's an icon's icon. He
Mhm.
wasn't back then. I mean, like I said, my grandmother met him. My grandmother was in meetings with him. So I mean, I'm hearing stories about him and Thurgood Marshall and Medgar Evers and stuff. So I mean, the thing is, and I remember like there are certain things that he would say that he was just dogged for. When he talked about the chickens coming home to roost because of what America has done in the past, they ate him up because of that.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is that, I commend Colin Kaepernick because I felt like he put it all on the line for what he believed.
Say he didn't get an opportunity. And Mr. BIrden, you can attest to this. One thing we're born with as receivers is hands.
Mm-hmm.
That never goes away. But 2 or 3 years out the league, that God-given ability begins to diminish.
Mm-hmm.
So say 4 years down the line, he finally got an opportunity, right? Those skills aren't there anymore, which he's been doing since 5 years old.
It's true.
He gets an opportunity. Now they can taint him. Say this is the reason why he did not get a job prior.
Yeah. And I think that's a valid point. And I think he's what, 31? How old is he?
He got to be like 34 at least. I mean,
yeah, he's at least 30.
Steph Curry's 33 now. Wow.
Yeah. 33 years old. All right. Thanks, Alexa. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that was just right here. Well,
yeah. So you make a great point. And I would think that and here would be my question is he still working out? Is he still getting in the reps? Does he even still want to play? Because that makes a difference too, because Colin might not even really want to play. And all these people are making this noise about him playing. Maybe he doesn't really want to play, like you said, to really make that impact on history. Yep. But if he wants to play,
that's different.
That's different, so do we even really know? I mean,
he don't say anything,
Yeah.
But I appreciate because I believe that had it not been for him, had it not been for what he got, especially in the sports world, it would not be as big as it is now.
Right.
No.
It would not. I mean, like I said, for me, he changed history. Like he deserves the iconic status that I believe history is going to put him as, because, like I said, he put it all on the line.
It just needed to play out this way.
He did it in a season where if the 49ers wanted to, they could have taken that $13 million from him. All they had to do was cut him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, standing for what you believe, man.
Hey, we're going to continue this conversation when you get done writing your book, because this conversation will still be relevant. Yes, sir. But hey, Mr. BIrden, I want to thank you, man. This has been one of the most wisdom-packed interviews that we've had. Very organic. We talked about so many different things that can really ignite, the brain and help us be better. Help us be better husbands. Help us be better at work. Help us be better followers of the Lord. Man, I just want to thank you so much, brother.
No, I appreciate you, Coach Penn and Coach Haas. Thank you for your patience. I got a crazy schedule. Thank you for the follow-up and making this happen, because this is what it's all about, being able to share content that can actually impact people's lives. People need that. They need the positive role models. They need to hear the experiences, the lessons, the journeys, the struggles, the wins, to help them achieve, their goals as well. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share.
Definitely, man. We attack this show, with the same, like I say, beast, the same dog as JJ BIrden. So you will be seeing us, sir.
Love it.
Man, where else are you going to get marital advice? Motivational speak, and then sports advice. Like, I mean, the thing is, man, this dude hit all three of these.
Where sports and life meets.
Yeah. Well, and that whole, like, it's one thing to say, well, you just have to begin with the end in mind.
Yes.
It's another thing to be like, just talk about your life, and that's what it is. It's beginning with the end in mind.
This was a great interview, huh? Yeah. Hey, thank you for tuning in. Once again, the content is unmatched, and it's here for you.
That's right.
Until next week, Thank you for watching.